Well, first of all, thank you so much for giving us season three. It's absolutely amazing. I have to say, I've seen it, but for the folks who haven't yet, the trailer, let's just say, previews that Barry's having a rough go of it and really having a hard time balancing. So, what was it like jumping into the chaos of where we left him in season two for season three?
It's a different it's a tough season. It was a tough thing to kind of figure out. But he's definitely, I don't know, his back is against the wall this season. I don't know how else to say it. He's really, you don't think things could get worse, but they do. And it's kind of his, it's his fault. So.
Yeah, I heard you say in an interview, it's going to be interesting to see if fans are going to be able to stick with Barry as he goes through this season. And I know it's sort of like around the season theme is this idea of like, if what you do is also the thing that destroys you, is what the thing that you're good at. And I know like you channeled some of your own stuff for that. I do have to say, like, what do you think themes are going to play out on that? And how therapeutic was it to kind of like write that through a season of television?
Yeah, I mean, I never try to, doing this stuff is never therapy for me in any way. Hopefully people don't watch the show, especially some of the scenes, and think, oh, he's working something out, because they'll be like, oh, he's a monster. It's, definitely these themes of redemption and can you, forgiveness is something that has to be earned. And then is forgiveness even a thing, and I don't really know the answer to these things. And that's why it's fun to create stuff, because you can kind of ask yourself these questions and try to figure it out. But this season, he's definitely in a darker place than he has been the first two seasons. And that's really saying something. So I don't know if, we might be
scared. It's still a comedy, right?
It's still funny. Yeah. I actually feel like this season has some of the funniest stuff we've ever done. It gets really silly in some parts, but yeah, it's rough.
Okay. Well, I hope somebody that's bringing maybe a little bit of light to it. I can't think of anything less from Henry Winkler, but I think you said that Barry's going into the season knowing that Gene likely saved his life, and just that dynamic between the two. Talk about, you and Henry working that out and what you wanted their relationship to be in season three.
Well, their relationship is very complicated because Barry kind of sees him as, the guy that saved his life and all these things. And then the end of season two, from Barry's point of view, is that, Cousineau saw Janice's, body and all this stuff, and Barry's, they were both arrested, and it was, and all this stuff, and it was terrible. And, he kind of goes away, kind of into hiding in a way. Barry does, kind of emotionally, and Cousineau, unbeknownst to Barry, knows kind of where we pick up. And so it was kind of going like what we like to do every season. We like to write ourselves into a corner and go, well, let's see what happens.
Yeah. And I've heard you've already written yourself into a corner for season 4, but you've already mapped it out. Are you still committed to 10 episodes directing? And are you crazy?
Oh, yeah, I'm crazy.
Oh my God.
Can you handle more amazing news?
I just have to ask you, now that Gene knows what Barry did, and then also with your dynamic with the actual Bill Hader, in the sense that he's already written out so much ahead of time, how long before you find out the big twists and turns? And is it sort of the same way that you're approaching Gene this year, with him knowing, but maybe not wanting to let everyone know that he knows?
Do you know what? I think that in the beginning, Gene knows, then it sinks in. He just learned to love somebody, right? He really didn't love anybody before Janice, before Paula. And then to have like, all right, so I'm letting this woman into my life. I'm opening my life. Now she's gone. Now I know who made her gone. Now I'm so angry, I can't even taste food. Now I've got revenge. How do I even do that?
The thing about this season is so much about people's past coming to haunt them, and also about revenge. What is it like for you, maybe with Gene, the personification of the long-term character actor, really embracing his villainous side of it this year, or his darker side?
Well, first of all, he's fun to play. Second of all, in the second season, I had a meeting with Alec, Berg, and Bill. And I said, guys, I am not complaining. I am grateful. I love doing this show. But the character you wrote in season 2, I don't see any nod to the guy in season 1. This guy has a different name. I played Gene in season 1. This guy could be Bob.
Yeah.
Then they said, I hear you. It is important that you take care of your character. We can make some kind of correct, accommodation, but this is where we're going, because we don't want to repeat ourselves like so many sitcoms do with the same, same. Now, season 3, I asked no questions. I got my ticket. I got on the train. I found my seat.
Oh, well, then I have to ask you, on this seat, are we looking out on darkness, or are we looking out on sunshine?
I went on to Amazon and I got myself a miner's hat with a lamp on top.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's what everyone is saying. Bill, everyone's trying to get us mentally and physically prepared, which I think they should, since they made us wait so long. I think it's the beauty in the sense that I think you guys did your first table read and then you got shut down, and
it was amazing. It was amazing. How about this? We did our first table read, not knowing the danger that was lurking.
Yeah.
And we all had lunch and, finger food. And there's a salami and a piece of cheese. Oh, and a cracker. I think I'll take that. Oh, you're going to have some too. Go right ahead. And then the next day we came in to read and they said, I think you have to go home 2 weeks. Just go home 2 weeks. 2.5 years later.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Well, I have to ask you, one of the, problems with COVID is we lost that together time. And I know one of the cool situations that your filming schedule provided for you and Bill is that you guys actually did coffee chats, early in the morning, y'all would maybe have breakfast before you guys went on set.
Oh my God. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was wondering if you guys have been able to pick that up again. And then what's been the new tenor? This is now a longer standing tradition.
Well, Bill and I sometimes had lunch together.
Yeah.
In a restaurant. He always had salmon. Because he is the healthiest eater. He has snacks on set that I wouldn't even describe to another person. I don't even know what he was eating. But, he's very healthy. He has to stay trim. And I, of course, am bulging in every area. But it was liberating. It was, 3 weeks ago, my wife and I flew across the world and I did a show in Israel. And we thought, we're traveling.
Yeah.
We're living. We're checking our luggage. Oh my God, we're at Masada.
Yeah.
It was the same feeling. We weren't just picking up the show.
Yeah.
We were starting life again.
Oh, wow. I love that. I really do. I mean, I'm glad you're doing it. So many folks love what Gene does, what you've done with the performance. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. But there's also been talk of a Gene spinoff. I have to know your thoughts on this, because the idea of seeing an early Gene, yeah.
Right now, I would not do a Gene. I would not leave this show. I would not fix something that was not broken. I love acting with Bill and with my other cast members. I love the crew. I wouldn't go for all the tea in China. It would be insane.
Okay.
It would be insane. I live because I interact with all these people, and to all of a sudden, to that I was once confronted with this with Happy Days. They wanted me to do my own show. And I said, that's crazy. I am as good a character because Mrs. C is my mother. Ronnie is my brother. That's why Chuck, who was the older brother, was sent away, because I became the big brother.
Yeah.
And now you're going to take me away from that, and I'm going to have to start and roll the dice, and maybe it'll work. Not interested.
I'm so glad you're not. I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Like, I really love what you guys are doing with this. Let's just say we want to see those stories, but we can keep you there. Maybe you can do a voiceover and like double duty and do it
there
like
you go.
do it like How I Met Your Mother style. Yeah. The last thing I was just going to say is you have to portray coaching bad acting, but also bad actors, world-class actors portraying bad acting. How do you coach bad acting with the sort of Jean hat? It's like a meta sort of situation.
You know what it is you cannot be bad for real. You've got to be great and then be bad and create the bad. And I tell you one thing, I do miss my acting class, because every one of those people who are now doing great on their own were heavy hitters. One is directed and created a show on Netflix. One is becoming a director and is a wonderful actress in Killing Eve. And on and on and on. I miss them very much. I really do.
He didn't just teach me how to be a better actor. He taught me how to be a human being.
Sarah, first of all, congratulations on season 3. I know folks have been desperately waiting for it. And coming back to it, your character, the one thing I would say is you always talk about her tunnel vision and how she's so obsessed with making it that she can sort of let things go by the wayside. Now that she has her own show, how do you think that's going to affect that vision?
I think it's a great question. Yeah, Sally has suffered from a kind of myopia since we met her, where the whole world is sort of out of focus, and there's just high def on the one thing that she wants. And she is getting what she wants. And I think that it's really interesting what happens to people when they get what they think they want. And we go into an exploration of that, a bit of be careful what you wish for. It's a tricky biz, and she is in a sort of complicated place of maybe she thought it was going to be one pure feeling, of joy, and actually it's complicated, and all the other things are coming with it. She's overwhelmed, the anxiety that comes with it, the visibility that comes with it, the expectation that comes with it, and she's in a vulnerable spot. And so we're sort of playing with how she navigates that, and and how she behaves in a place where she's finally got a little bit of power. What does she do with it?
I'm like kind of shudder to think about it, knowing some of her, I'd say, darker tendencies. But I mean, I don't know. But that tunnel vision, it's also not just with the work. I mean, obviously, I think she obviously has that with Barry. Do you think that is purposeful, or is that just like, is she ever going to put him in high def, to your point?
That's also a great question. I think that this is a high functioning relationship in its absolute dysfunction, and they are so bad for each other, and yet it works because they just see what they want to see in each other, or they see themselves how they want to be seen through the projection of the other. I think the veneer there is cracking, and without giving anything away, I think there's only so long a relationship like that can flourish. It has a shelf life. So yeah, she does have that myopia in that dynamic, and which is lucky because he kills people for a living. So if she knew that,
let's be clear. Yeah, 2020 vision is not this relationship.
No, not for this one.
The other thing about it, I mean, a lot of people have pointed it out. Obviously, this was something that was written for the character, which is also one of the things that makes her, I think, complicated is her narcissism, is just her self-obsession. And I think what's interesting about it is that narcissism, I know, made, at least in the first season, a lot of people like, coming against her more than the guy that murdered people for a living, which I always thought was so weird. But what is it about it? I think in season 2, they also showed where that came from and just the duality of her narcissism and just her sort of dashed hopes.
Well, I think that's what we're constantly trying to do with the show is you're showing people behave badly, and then we're trying to get underneath the reasons why they behave that way. And for me, I'm endlessly fascinated by that. I think that the backlash towards Sally in season 1 was anticipated and also fascinating mirror to society. And where are we at that a woman who's a little bit narcissistic is much more unpalatable than a man who shoots people. And then we sort of undercut that in season 2 when we understand who she is, why she is the way she is. And, I've always said, oh, she's unlikable. Let's make her a monster. I want to play a complicated woman who's making bad choices on a show about complicated people making bad choices. I was really resistant to becoming the moral barometer of the show. I really didn't want Sally to fall prey to that just because she's the woman. And all of our writers were very receptive to that. And we fought hard to keep her in a morally complex place that is correct for the tone of the show. And that is the thesis of the show is like, am I a bad person? And what does it mean to be a bad person? And when you have the opportunity to make the right decision, do you take that choice or do you take the quick choice that's going to get you the thing that you want? And that's what we're playing with all of these characters, and we're pushing the stakes for all of them. And it's endlessly fascinating to play.
The other thing too, I think just sort of the theme of the season, and granted we haven't seen everything, but we've seen a little bit, is this idea that you can be good at something and it could also be killing you to be good at something. And I'm just curious, along those themes, do you have something like that where you would be like, it would be the death of me to be good at this? Or do you have something that you're good at that you're like, I never ever want to make this my job?
Wow, well, that's a great question. I mean, being an actor comes with a lot of potential landmines in that, it's a profession that's high-low. And I feel lucky that I've been sort of opposite to Sally, that I feel like I've had a slow and steady career where I've really got to work with great people and do things that I love. I think there's a dangerous side to the level of fame that some people attain in this business, and I think that it can be a very scary thing, and I feel lucky not to be in that category, because I think that would kill me. I think it's very important to have balance in your life, and the extreme of this profession doesn't lend itself to that balance.
Yeah,
but I love doing it, so I'm not going to stop,
Barry Berkman did this.
Well, I do have to say, again, I love your entire body of work, but whenever I watch you in this, it makes me question whether or not you're a nice guy. Like, I think everyone is just so upset with Fuches. Like,
he's getting worse, isn't he? He's
Yes.
getting worse.
And what he did to Barry was so awful, but I guess in his mind, it was retaliation for what Barry did to him. And so, like, where do you think justice lies with Fuches in regards to Barry? Like, does he like...
Justice lies when Barry does what he says, does what he wants him to do. And I think, unfortunately, that's his character arc, which is it's just, that's it. There is no arc. There's just, if you don't do what I want you to do, I'm gonna hurt you. And that's what's happening this season.
I mean, he's so villainous. Like, just
what's wonderful,
wisdom.
I'll tell you what's great though, I think, is because they're using that to tie season 1 and 3 together with the way that he's trying to deal with Barry. And I think that was brilliant writing, just so cool.
Yeah, the writing on this show is brilliant. They do really seem to like stretch the bounds of what you can do on television, what you could do in a dramedy or, or drama, whatever you want to say. But the thing is, like, with your character, do you think he has like a red line? Is there anything he's not willing to do in pursuit of his sort of domination over Barry?
I don't think there's anything. I think he's not emotionally able to enjoy his own life, and that he's at the stopping point now because all he can do is think about. So it's a revenge season for this character. And I don't think he's emotionally able to handle more than that. And that's bad because his his friend has PTSD and is getting worse and is going down the rabbit hole himself. So I didn't write season 4, but I don't see any reconcile coming.
Oh, I mean, I didn't see it either. After what he did, just the whole way that everything played out. There is the scene last year, which I think is so funny, which is the little girl and sort of like Barry, y'all sort of like going through. So everyone's talked to Bill and of course the stunt folks about that episode and what you guys did, but let's talk about you, because you were like in and out of it, but also still probably having to deal with a lot of that choreography.
Yeah. It was a day where we decided to skip that episode and we shot it last. It was just so hard to direct that episode with all the stuff that was going on, and you couldn't use stunt drivers and you couldn't use stunts. When I had to have a car, when I had to drive a car with my feet, I had to drive the car with my feet. So everything was done on the day, figure it out on the day. It was a long couple of days, but so worth it because of the brilliant performance of that gal. She was unbelievable. Yeah. She's the daughter of a stunt, and she was unbelievable and so good. And Bill deserved an Emmy for directing that episode. I thought I've never seen fight sequences like that. Just kind of amazing stuff.
No, I think I was definitely pulling for that one. We need to make the campaign this year. Barry needs like more wins across the board. I see what you're saying. Like,
hey, we're always happy to be recognized. It's a win to be on the show. That's what we do.
That's true. I definitely want to talk about this because you talk about the writing of Barry, and what's crazy about it is like when we were talking to Bill, he was talking about how dark this season gets, and I'm like, is it still a comedy? And he's like, yeah, no, it's like we do some of the most.
We're still in ridiculous situations.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's hilarious, but then it gets really dark, and because of that, it just made me think of Shakespearean, because even in the midst of the biggest tragedies that he wrote, there was always these funny sort of like moments, and then there was dramatic moments within the comedy.
Oh, I just did one in Macbeth.
That's what I was just about to say. Yeah, I was just about to say, do you feel those parallels with Barry? And that's a perfect example. Yeah.
It was nice for me to be able to do that, just because I'd done so much Shakespeare early in my career in New York and around there. To be able to do Shakespeare on screen was like a nice circle of your career. So I was very pleased to do that. Very lucky.
Do you have a Shakespearean character you feel Fuchs is most like? I'm sure there's a few you can think of.
Oh yeah, there's probably Iago. It's close, you know.
It's so great too, because you and Henry sort of play these sort of different father-esque replacement figures, and neither one of them are perfect in that endeavor.
Oh my goodness, no. And Fuchs is very jealous of that father figure thing with Cousineau. I think that's another revenge motivation for him as well.
Yeah, talk about how he thinks of Jean, because that was literally what I was going to ask you, is like, how does he place Jean, and is it more anger towards Jean than it is even to Barry?
I think there is more anger, but more jealousy than anger. I think Cousineau kind of took his place after he decided he wanted to be an actor. It's like, what do you mean? No, we do this, and what do you mean? And hence all the trouble starting from there. So I think he's very jealous of Cousineau, and probably was. I don't think you can figure out why he didn't kill him. He could have very easily killed him. But he did something almost as bad, and he continues this season to do things really bad that hooked up from season 1. Yeah.
Oh wow. I will just ask you this, because wow, that's really intriguing, because I don't think a lot of people thought anything you did towards the end, like that was the most unforgivable thing. So the fact that y'all have topped that makes me very scared for everybody involved. But it brings you to a great point. You know, you bring your Shakespeare days. For folks that don't know, you've had such a great and storied like career as an actor on stage and screen, and so you've worked with obviously some incredible directors, but what is it like in this format when you have like this player coach with Bill? What is his directing style like in comparison to him as a scene partner? And then when he's doing double duty?
It's amazing to me that he can switch hats as quickly as he does. As an actor, he wants to be a director, and as a director, he wants to be a director, because he'll give himself, we'll do a couple, we'll do scenes together, and he'll turn around on cameras on him, and he'll do it, and he'll go, "Is that good enough?"
Yeah.
He wants to get back to the other stuff. He wants to direct, and I think that's great because he's so good at it. But as an actor being directed by him, it's wonderful short speak, because he's been through it, and it is going through it as an actor. You could say, can you do the thing where you did the, yeah, okay. And you can't do that with a lot of other directors who can't communicate that well. I find a lot of younger directors have, I'd like to send an acting 101 just so they can go through that process a little bit, so you can talk to an actor.
Oh, so incredible. Yeah.
So,
And it
yeah.
brings another flavor to it.
It does. And I've worked with, really big actors who directed, and it was always a joy, because it was so much easier.
I need a purpose.
Forgiveness is something that has to be earned. It's like that line in Shawshank Redemption. Get rich or die trying.
First of all, congratulations on season 3. We got the chance to see some of it, but I'm going to keep it spoiler free for the folks that haven't seen.
Thank you.
I know. I mean, I will have to ask you though, I think NoHo Hank, he gets this reputation as being like silly, but he's really like a man without a country, because in some ways he's completely guileless, hates all of the violence that's surrounding him, but he's also the most shrewd person as far as knowing who's up to no good and whose players you should be like more mindful of. So what's it like playing those sort of like two opposing sides of him, like at the same time?
It's a joy. It's a real joy. I mean, I kind of love playing a character who's really just swept up in the whole story of it, and really kind of, bless his heart, like doesn't exactly know all of the kind of ins and outs of everything that's going on. I find it to be like a really kind of refreshing experience to, like, as Hank, be kind of discovering what's happening and kind of, making these revelations in real time is just it's just one of these really, really cool things you get to do as an actor. And but I do think that this season in particular is one in which he's growing, and he's actually beginning to kind of find a bit more of his footing in terms of who he is as a mobster, and who he is as a human being, what he needs for the first time, really, kind of ever.
And also maybe in that, like, his friendship with Barry is like probably the center of those conflicting, or even if you can call it a friendship, his relationship with Barry is like at the confliction of all of that. Do you think they really understand each other, or do you feel that NoHo Hank understands Barry?
I think in a weird way, I think Hank really does get Barry. I mean, I think it's he might completely miss the mark sometimes, but I think sometimes it's he really hits the nail on the head. I mean, when Barry asks him, am I evil? There's that scene in the car together, and they're like, am I evil? And Hank is like, I mean, he's weirdly there for him as a friend, so much, but he gives him the complete wrong advice. He's like, oh my God, you're like the most evil person I know. He's trying to lift him up. He's trying to just be the best possible friend he can be. Like, is he saying the right thing? Absolutely not. But the intention is there.
That's that dichotomy. It's so funny too. And as you've just demonstrated with me, as I was laughing through that, because the minute you mentioned that scene, I'm picturing your voice, I'm picturing it, and I'm already laughing. And I heard this is sort of your weapon on set, that you can make. Doesn't take much, as we know from SNL, to make Bill Hader break, but apparently you were like his kryptonite. Like, he can't talk with you with his eyes open, and so talk about. First of all, are you doing it on purpose? I feel like that's what you do. And
well,
two,
I mean,
how do you film this stuff? Because he says he can't even look at you.
Well, I mean, I don't think no. the thing is, if you try, this is the kind of, the real, problem with comedy is like, if you try to be funny, you like fall on your face. It just doesn't work that way. You literally just have to be doubled down, so committed to what you're doing. And that's when, when you lose yourself in it, that's when you actually just make people, especially Bill, break. And yeah, and there's like those times where, I mean, he makes me break all the time too. I've it's a miracle that we've actually finished some scenes, because there's just, I mean, the crew would just be like, guys, please, like, wrap it up. Like, we got to get home, but it's just, we're having so much fun.
Yeah, I heard it's almost like a form of hysteria in your body. Like, you can't, at a certain point, once you think something is funny, you can't not think it's funny. Like,
and you have to write it out. It's like a medical condition. It's just got to work its way through your system.
And I think the reason why folks are so fascinated about it is because obviously we know the show is just written impeccably, and you guys are always finding new ways to keep the audience interested. But on top of that, because you have so many great comedic voices like yourself and Henry and Steven and obviously Bill, y'all improvise so much. And I just am curious maybe what your favorite improvised line is, because mine, from what I heard of, was like Poop Mountain or like BS Mountain when you guys were on the roof.
Oh yeah.
And like
right.
the
I'm not sure if I can say it, but yeah, Suckballs Mountain.
No, you can. Yes, that's it. No, you can definitely say it.
Yeah, I think honestly, that might have been like one of my crowning achievements. Maybe I was well, first of all, I mean, shooting that scene was crazy because it was like 1,000,000 degrees up on that roof, and Hank goes through a journey. It's like he trying to kill someone, almost gets killed himself, vomits out of the sheer just panic of everything, and then proceeds to have this revelation about hiring Barry, breaks into dance. Like, there's a lot going on in that scene, but somehow me and Troy, the other actor, we were just like kind of messing with each other, and I knew that he would have to kind of say this thing, so I was just like, yeah, okay, what if I said this? And I just kind of like threw him that one, and he, being the great actor that he is, just took it and just ran with it. So yeah, it's so much fun when one of those works.
Oh my God, I love it so much. Again, this is why I see why y'all can't film anything, because just talking about it is hilarious. It's the character. It's NoHo Hank. Once he like came on screen and sort of set himself apart from all of the other sort of mobsters of that world, he was just such a different version of that you just can't but love him. And he's become so beloved among the fans. But like, what are they telling you they connect with? Like, is it just that he's guileless? Is it the fact that he's always going to come with a nice fit, like, which he does?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. He always shows up, in like a really impeccable way. But yeah, I think, that's what's cool is, I mean, I get like tons of surprising kind of compliments and tons of surprising kind of like thoughts on the character. Because some people are just like, Hank is terrifying. Hank is like, whoa, like I would not want to like cross that dude. And then some people are like, I want to like get a beer with Hank. Like, I just want to like kick it and chill because he just seems like just such a fun person to be around. So it's nice that there's like a character, that I get to play that's just such, can be interpreted in so many different ways.